Now, stakeholders in renewable energy sector have appealed to the federal government to create easy access to finance for product developers and reduce cost of import duties to help promote the upscale of renewable energy deployment in Nigeria. The president of Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria, Segun Adaju, made the appeal while addressing journalists at the Stakeholders Engagement and Finance for Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Sector in Abuja on Wednesday.
Yes, I must mention that government, I mentioned the Rural Electrification Agency, so government is coming in through that platform, so they have some money, funding from the World Bank and African Development Bank to support solar home systems and mini grids in Nigeria. Okay, so that's one. Also, where governments can support in terms of incentives. For example, it's a big challenge clearing our products. You know, the custom duty is too high, the taxes are high, value-added tax is being charged. Meanwhile, in other countries, it is it helps to reduce the costs to end users. So we're asking government to come in by providing an enabling environment, encouraging investors to come in, improving the climate, giving incentives, tax holidays, custom duty waivers, and even encouraging individuals and companies to adopt renewable energy. So if a company adopts renewable energy, government should be able to encourage them by some tax allowance, for example, and then you begin to see increase and enhancement in the sector.
So this event is about different stakeholders at different levels coming together to discuss about rural electrification financing. It's very important because we have initiatives and there are so much strides that have been gained, but one of the constraints of players facing the industry is finance, availability of funds. So this is about different stakeholders, both from the public, both from government, civil society, commercial banks, funding partners, DFIs, and even local funders like MFBs or commercial banks coming together to say, look, how can we give more to the industry to grow? Because if funds are not made available, then renewable energy cannot grow.
The truth of the matter is this, since we're a wholesale financier, we just give the funds directly to the PFIs for them to make the determination of who the respective MSMEs are, as long as they fall within our category or rather classification of MSMEs. However, we also have a subsidiary company, ICGL, that's Impact Credit Guarantee Limited, and that basically is a risk-sharing organization, meaning that they will essentially give the PFIs some elbow room to encourage them to basically take a greater risk on the MSMEs.
For us at Blue Camel, we've been presented with different opportunities and different funding options from DFIs, private institutions, from the commercial banks, and even from the government. However, each of these opportunities come with their own challenges and various requirements, and we're also being careful with what we choose, so we don't shoot ourselves in the foot in the long run. Starting with the government, most of the agencies that disburse these funds or that are in charge of this funding make it very difficult to access this funding due to bureaucratic processes, corruption, and some man-made and artificial barriers. So that's been a challenge for us. You need to know someone, and we all know how it goes.
Poor electricity infrastructure was identified as a major obstacle to the economic development in Nigeria. Despite the provision of intervention funds by the federal government, the product developers still encounter challenges in accessing these funds due to high interest rates and high levy of customs import duties.
Now back to the question around what the association has done. I'll use the typical example of the Solar Power Niger, when Nigerian government through the CBN introduced about 150 billion naira to, spur the market, to simulate the market. We very quickly set up a committee that was part of a member of. You have some of our members in here who were in that committee as well. And what we did right away was to actually conduct a survey amongst our 160 members thereabout then. And then we classify or pretty much categorize everybody all players into different buckets: mini grid, solar home system, commercial and industrial, portable solar lights. Our strengths in those areas were clearly articulated. And then members were engaged one-on-one to come forward with their requirements, with how they want to access funds or which projects they have. And we pretty much set up a table through which they can talk to the association for assistance, whether they want to talk to CBN, DBN, or any of the agencies that will make this available.
A lot of the auditors here in Nigeria, they prepare their audited accounts for tax purposes. That will never pass our model. You see, when you submit an audited account for a tax purpose, it will never pass my own model. So I can't even submit to the next, line manager. So for that reason, we have accredited them. So they don't need to look at your face. There are over 2,000 of them nationwide. So you have quite a vast number. The reason people go typically to those ones is because they want to pay tax. And we have to be honest with that. You see, so for the rest of the documentation, I guess they're quite easy. The bank guarantee, now the issue with bank guarantee is that, of course, the commercial banks are here. A lot of customers submit an application, let's say of 500 million naira. Their turnovers with those banks have been, for example, 100 million for 3 years down the line, but they've never collected credit from those banks. So the banks does not have any, history of you collecting credit. So they don't know your attitude towards loan repayment.
Stakeholders called on the federal government to bring up measures for improving financial accessibility to enhancing gap bridging in electricity supply in the country.